All right, so we are recording. We'll see how this goes. And I know Tiona actually told me that she really thinks Zoom classes are great. Right, Tiona? So this is hopefully for you. We got Yael, Eliza, Heidi, Shira, Sarah, Moore, and Rena, and Anna. What I really like about this is I can see exactly who's on. Because this way, at least I know who I'm talking to, and you know who you're talking to. And if you think the comment's not discreet, you just look around and decide if you trust these people or not. So it's good. It's all good. And it's Shavuos. And today, of course, was, I don't think it still is, but it definitely was Rosh Chodesh. So we're in this count up from today through Thursday night. And we begin the process of once again getting the Torah. I wanted to focus on some of the ideas of what we are supposed to be doing now. You might be thinking you're supposed to be cooking now or shopping or finding the cheese that's not available anywhere, but there's also some other things we're supposed to be doing now. So today, going back a little bit, this is really from today going forward, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and then boom, day 6. Is the real deal. Day 6 is when we got the Torah. But it was a process of all these days starting from today. So what happened on day 1? Okay, request if everyone can mute themselves unless you're talking. As I always say, these classes are so much better if you hear other voices. If they're just mine, it's like definitely not as engaging. Sure, not for me. So what happened today? So as you probably all remember, today, you were there, so maybe you do remember. 3,332 years ago, we all arrived at the foot of Mount Sinai. And we were there. In other words, as you can imagine, you're taking a big trip, like for a wedding. I mean, maybe like me sometimes, you come the day of, but that's not really the greatest idea. You want to come, settle, prepare yourselves. So the Jews came that day, 3,332 years ago. Today, we arrived at Mount Sinai. Now, when we got there, we were in an incredible state. The good news, it was incredible. The not as good news is we've never recreated it ever since. What did we manage to do then? Well, the famous words that you've probably heard many, many times, Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Hahar. Vayichan, and he camped the Jewish people at the foot of the mountain. And as our sages say, these famous words, Ki'ish echad b'lev echad, one man with one heart. Now here we are, about 11 of us, and maybe we do sometimes feel like one woman with one heart. First of all, we're women. It's a lot easier for women. And there's 11 of us, not 3 million. But we did it. We really got to the point that 3 million of us felt like one organism. Now, I didn't want to dedicate the entire class to this topic because I think it was 2 weeks ago. My sense of time is so blurry. I sometimes have no clue what day it is. Actually, a lot of times I have no clue what day it is. So, but I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and we had a whole beautiful gathering focused on connecting and loving to people. And then last week, we, in a different way, sort of developed an idea of bonding with people. So I wasn't going to do it for 3rd week, but I just want to focus on 3 tips, and then we're going to move on. But I felt like today is the day, so come on, let's try to make it happen today. So 3 tips, I might have mentioned at least one of them before. I don't remember, but it's okay. I'm still working on them every day. You know, we don't get over these things so fast. So I'm sure I've shared this because this really helps me a lot. When I'm in a situation that something's bothering me in terms of another person, what I say to myself is, oh, they're just like me. What do I mean by that? I listen to my Yetzer Hara and they listen to their Yetzer Hara. We're the same. Okay, it happens to be I would never do this thing that they are doing, but that's just because my Yetzer Hara isn't going that road with me. My Yetzer Hara gives me other problems. But what's the difference? I would never do that. I do this. And maybe my this is worse than their that. So I don't know if it works for anyone else. I never saw it in any book, but for me, this so much aligns me And so much helps me drop all the judgments and all the stuff that could otherwise bother me. No, I am no different. Once I know I'm no different, how could I be judging someone else for what I do, in essence? So that's one tip that really, really, really helps me a lot. And that's why I'm freely sharing it, because I hope it could help other people also. Something else that I was thinking recently is when I know we speak a lot about Mashiach, and I keep thinking, I don't want this to end with going back to what we pretended was normal. Now with some social distancing in place. I want Mashiach. And I think everyone here wants Mashiach. And I think I think we all want Mashiach. And when you're in a Mashiach space, love is very flowing. Love is very real between people. And I thought, like, if it's that real, how does it express itself? Let's make it practical. We always try to come down to, like, this world, because beautiful ideas are beautiful ideas. We got to bring them down. So what if you thought, and I'm suggesting this, and maybe people think it's a bad idea, but what if you thought, well, if I really love people, I would really want to do whatever I could to help them. So I'd like to try, when someone asks me for a favor, that my go-to is going to be yes. That my go-to will be yes. Will I get taken advantage of sometimes? For sure. Of course, I will. But imagine what type of love that is when my go-to is yes, of course. Now, thinking about this last night, and then late last night, or really early this morning, someone asked me for something, which I didn't right away process as a favor. They just asked me to do something. And I gave them sort of like a yes. And I was like, wait, this is it. This is my golden opportunity. This is a favor. So I deleted that WhatsApp and I sent another one saying, of course, I'd be so happy. I heard a story last week. I'm very bad with names, so I don't remember the name. If someone else knows the story, feel free to interject. You can anyway feel free to interject. But there was this man who was a survivor of the Holocaust. I don't remember exactly when the story happened. I said, don't ask me any details. I was listening to someone else giving a talk, and I heard the story. Well, lots of things were probably going on in my house, but it really affected me. It was very special. And it was talking about a man who was very generous. And he just really supported a lot of causes. A lot of times people are generous to their shul, to the school their kids go to, to the organization they establish. But he was just like across the board, a really, really big-hearted person that was just always out there. I guess he had the resources to support a lot of causes. And once someone asked him why, like, there are a lot of people that support, but you just put it all over the place. Like, you give it yourself everywhere. Why? And this is what he said. I'm sorry, I don't know his name. If someone does know the name, please tell me. He said he's a survivor of the Holocaust. He was in Auschwitz. And he said when he was on the line, you get off the cattle car, you're completely disoriented, you've been for days without food or water, you're barely surviving, and you're walking down this line, and you have no clue what's going on. We, of course, know. We've heard many stories. He had no clue. He's walking on the line. He sees there's a line, and people are going in two directions, and he's very disoriented. He definitely didn't have his head about him to understand who was going where and what was happening. He was just sort of walking on the line. And as he's walking, somehow next to him, there was a man, an older man, who started talking to me. He said, oh, and he said his name, which I forgot. Oh, I know you. I know your father. I come from the same town. Oh. He's like, wow, like, you don't find too much friendly, warm people in this line. Everyone's just sort of surviving. And he said to him, the man said to him, what year were you born? And he said, 1924. And the man said, no, you were born 1922. And he said, no, I was born 1924. He said, I know your father. You were born 1922. I remember. And for a few minutes, as the line was progressing, this was a back and forth discussion. 1922, 1924, 1922, 1924. And by the time they were done and the man somehow wandered somewhere else, and the mass, he like brainwashed him that he was born in 1922. And when he got there in front of Mengele, he looks at him, he looks him up and down, and he says, he didn't say how old he was. He said, what year were you born? And he said, 1922. He said, okay. And he sent him to the side of life. And it wasn't that moment, and it probably wasn't that day, but at a certain point in the concentration camp, it hit him what had happened there. And he understood there was an angel that came on that line with him. And that angel brainwashed him that he was born in 1922, so he should go to the side of life. Because if he was born in 1924, he would have been too young and he would have gone to the other side. And he said, this man said, telling this story, he said, I made a commitment then. I said, when I get out of here, the same way there was an angel that saved my life, I want to be an angel. I want to be an angel for whoever I can. And he said, till this day, when I wake up in the morning, I think to myself, who can I be an angel for? Who can I be an angel for? And I was thinking like, wow, imagine waking up in the morning and thinking, whose angel could I be today? We don't always know. Your daughter, your son, your husband, your mother, your friend, we don't know who's going to come needing us. But imagine a life of whose angel can I be today? That's a life where the love is real. It's practical. You're searching. You want to be someone's angel. You want to be able to help someone. It's not like someone asks you, well, supposed to be a good person, you know, what's coming up, something's always coming up. I want to find that person to help. I want to be someone's angel. That's an outlook on life that makes us different people. It makes us people that really the love is that real, is that strong. That's one tip. I just want to give one more tip on this idea. And that's just someone was talking about this last night. So I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I'm going to bring it in. I already prepared the class. No, I haven't. Sorry. I already jotted down some notes for the class. I'm like, I'm going to add this one. They were talking about the idea of like, she was talking about in terms of situations, I'm saying people and situations, of sifting and separating the good from the bad. Like in a lot of times in our life, things are imperfect. I mean, like most of my life, things are imperfect. Let's say you went to a school and parts of it were great, parts of it were okay, and some pieces were horrible. So how do you envision that experience? Was it horrible? Was it okay? Or was it great? Well, what type of perspective do you have? How do you sift through your life? So Torah tells us we're supposed to look at life. We're supposed to look at people. And we're supposed to extract the good, which is often sometimes a challenge. I mean, famous saying, you all know it, Ezehu Chacham Halomed Mikol Adam. Who is wise? Who learns from everyone. What does that mean? What that means in this context, I mean, I'm sure it has many, many other deep, deep meanings, but we're being simple here. What it means is when you see someone and you only see bad in them, you only see negative qualities, there's something wrong with your eyesight. Now, there's an interesting halacha. This is a halacha. It's a law, which means it has like very strong weight. The halacha, the law is, if one is a priest, one is a Kohen, and someone says he thinks he might have tsaras. Tsaras was this skin affliction. It was a spiritual affliction, and only the priest could judge it, no doctors. And the priest came, and he would look, and he would say yes or no. This is tsaras, this is not tsaras, whatever. Or there's a whole procedure, and there's a whole parsha that's very complex laws. But it's a very interesting law, not written in the parsha, but written in the laws. If a priest comes, and he looks at the person, and every inch of his flesh is covered with tsaras, the verdict is, he's pure, he doesn't have tsaras. It's a sort of absurd law. Why? The answer is because that's impossible. There's no Jew that every inch of him is bad. So if you're looking and you only see tsaras, 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 bad, 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 you know the problem is your own eyesight. And this is true with us and how we look at people in our world. When we look in our world and we see people, you can look at me and see lots of flaws. You can look at me and see lots of nice things. You're going to see both. Now you choose. You choose what you want to look at. It's true in our life. It's true when we look back at the people that we maybe didn't look at with such a positive eye. It's true with people we encounter now. It's true with many, many, many situations in our life. If we really want to feel this love for people, because people are people and people might do things that are wrong and people do, then we really need to say, you know what? I want to be that chacham. I want to be that person that sees the good, that focuses on the good, and doesn't focus on the other parts. Not my position. It's not my job. I'm not the person's mother. I'm not the person's mentor. I'm not the person's rabbi. I want to focus on the good. I want to be that chacham. I want to be that wise person that I learn from everyone something, because everyone has something good about them that I could look at and say, wow, in this, they're very special. And what about, okay, I don't have to focus on that. In this, they're very special. From this perspective, this situation is very good. I want to focus on that because that's a way to truly respect, feel positive, feel bonded, feel comfortable, feel good with people, feel good with people in my life. So I know some people just joined as I was talking. This is really nice for me because after I don't know how many classes of having no clue who I'm talking to, I actually get to know who I'm talking to. So there's advantages to every situation. I also understand I have only 3 people who I'm seeing their face. I totally get that. If it was me, you wouldn't see my face either because you have all my kids jumping in the background. So you wouldn't see anybody because I don't want you to see all my kids jumping in the background. So I get that too. I'd love to hear some voices though, because if you feel like too much noise in your background, it's okay, whatever. We all have a lot of noise in our background. But I just want to recap on the 3 points I said. So we're trying to work our way to getting the Torah, which we're receiving on Friday. And what today's work is recreating something we achieved like a pinnacle 3,332 years ago and have never reached since, of such unity. And I gave 3 tips. I'm welcome to any feedback on them, or we can move on. The first tip was, when you see someone doing something wrong, understand, oh, me too. I might do different things wrong, but hey, I'm human also. I do plenty wrong. The second idea was really, like I said, trying to be that angel, trying to give, trying to be there for other people, trying to be the one that does favors and says yes to favors and helps people, like the story I said in the Holocaust. And the third point I just said was shifting, sifting, and seeing good in situations where there's sort of a mixture, because most situations have a mixture, and trying to train your eyes to appreciate the good in people and situations and understand we're all human. But I want to focus on the good. Hope you're understanding that third point, because it's sometimes a little difficult. I'm going to tell a personal story. I tell a personal story, right? Only 12 people are going to hear it and then tell it to the rest of the world. This was my father. This actually was my father, Lubavitcher Rebbe. So I don't want to give so much background because I don't want it to be such a long story. But I just want to bring out the point. Maybe you will feel, maybe you won't feel to bring out the point. So my father, his parents were traditional. And he, on his own, became religious at a very young age. He went off to yeshiva. There was no frum school. He was actually born in Chicago. There was no frum school in Chicago at that time at all. It didn't exist. He went off to yeshiva. And he went through a yeshiva system for many, many, many years. Now he's already, I don't know how old, post high school, in the process of getting his rabbinical ordination, his smicha. And his mother, Aleh Shalom, was putting a lot of pressure on him to go to university, because in her, coming from Europe, immigrant mindset, the only way you make something of yourself is if you go to college. Otherwise, he's going to be like, a batlan. He's just going to learn Torah. Got to have to support your family. So my grandmother was putting a lot of pressure on my father to go to university. She had tolerated, she had accepted his whole journey till now, but now he could go now back to normal life, go to university. He was a very, very brilliant mind. And she knew if he went to university, he'd be very successful. And he was in a big dilemma because his mother really, really wanted this. But he knew it wasn't the typical approach in the Chabad world. So he went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He had a very long audience with the Rebbe. And honestly, the Rebbe really wasn't happy with the idea. And the Rebbe really didn't want him to go to university. And he felt very torn. And he felt this tremendous pressure from his mother and financial responsible. And he really felt he had to do it. So in the end, the Rebbe sort of said, okay, if you're going to do it. And the Rebbe gave him some spiritual guidelines to protect himself from, whatever he would encounter in the university scene. I mean, the story is much longer. There's many details, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. And that's what happened. And then my father went off to university. Finished smicha and then went off to university. And what's interesting, the reason I'm saying this story to bring up this point is, here's my father. He's, as we say, a chassid, who's not exactly doing what the Rebbe wants. Again, he got the Rebbe's permission. He did get the Rebbe's permission, 100% he got the Rebbe's permission, but it was very reluctant permission. So you would think, all right, so what happens when that happens in the world? Well, you're doing what I'm telling you. I really don't think it's a great idea, so I'm not really happy with what you're doing. I'm probably not really happy with you, and whatever. All right, have a great life. But that wasn't the Rebbe's perspective at all. Every step of the way for my father in university, in his career as a scientist, the Rebbe was 100% supportive, there for him, did everything as a Rebbe to help him step by step by step. And maybe you don't think of a Rebbe, okay, well, he's a Rebbe. But if you think of it, it's an incredible lesson. I'm taking this story and putting it as a human lesson. Here's someone, they're not really listening to you. They're not directly rebelling, but they're not doing what you think is a better way. And you don't throw them off. Like there's an expression in English, I think it's something like, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. So, the Rebbe didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I was like, doesn't make a difference. He's still who he is. And I'm still going to do everything I can to help him. And I'm going to do everything I can to make him successful in university. I'm going to do everything I can to make him successful in his career. There was even a point much later where my father was a scientist, and there was another scientist who the Rebbe was trying to encourage to get the Nobel Prize for science. And the Rebbe said to this scientist, why don't you give me nachas like Berg, meaning my father. That was his last name. Why don't you give me nachas like Berg? I think nachas, you didn't even want him to go into this. But you're not looking at it like that. You moved on. You don't get stuck. You're looking, you're supporting, you're there, you're doing whatever you can to help the person, whatever they're doing. So again, I don't know if it's a direct parallel, but in my head, this is the concept. That when we look at people, we'll see what we like and we'll see what we don't like. We'll see what we view as good, we'll see what we view as not good. But we want to focus on the good. We want to be that chacham halomed mikol adam. We want to be the person that sees the person, understands we're all human, focuses on the good, builds on the good, makes the good better, better, better. And through building on the good, the other stuff hopefully also get worked through. So those were 3 ideas. Any feedback, any comments?
Yes, Mrs. Turin.
Hi, Al. I love your stream. Beautiful black.
Okay, I'll put on my face. In hindsight, was your father happy with his decision to go to college and be a scientist? Or in hindsight, would he have preferred not to?
Can I tell you the real hindsight of the story?
His profession exposed him to toxins that weren't so healthy?
Yeah, that was it. It didn't even come from me. It actually came from my grandmother. My grandmother, who was traditional, as I said. I mean, later in her life, she became more and more religious, but, was still traditional. So my father, unfortunately, because of his work, developed leukemia. And he passed away very young. He passed away at 53. And he was sick from when he got it when he was 39. And he passed away when he was 53. And my grandmother said this to me. I would have never said it to her, obviously, but my grandmother said to me more than once, the Rebbe was right. The Rebbe was right. The Rebbe knew. Like better he be this batla and live and have a fulfilled life in whatever, some religious school, whatever, than be a brilliant scientist and die at age 53. Now, I'm not saying that was the Rebbe's calculation. I'm not saying that at all. But that was how my grandmother processed the story.
Okay, thank you.
It's the truth. It's true.
Yeah.
It's the life. Lives are very complex. When we look at things and what Yael's saying, again, we don't have that vision. But even sometimes we feel like God sometimes leads us. And sometimes we think, why is Hashem making it difficult to do this thing? Like, wouldn't he want me to do this? And Hashem sometimes is saying, I really love you, and that's why I don't want you to do this. And we're like, oh, but this is really good. And Hashem says, maybe, but maybe not for you. Maybe not with your journey. Maybe not what's going to be for your road. And again, hindsight is 20/20, and that's the only thing that's 20/20. And I'm not saying it's a general rule, and I'm not saying that was the Rebbe's intention. I have no clue. I'm not at all saying that. I'm just saying, practically speaking, this is what happened. But that was my father's journey, and he was a very, very special person, and he definitely lived his 53 years very, very, very fully. And he was very committed and very religious, and very, very connected to God. And those were the years he was given. Any other feedback on anything else I said? Okay, so now we're going to come to tonight and tomorrow, which is the second day. So the first day was our unity, our love for each other, which again, you could take an hour, you could take 5 hours on listen. We could work on this our whole life, but we took a little time on it. Now we're going to talk about what happened on the second day, Monday of our script. Theirs, it was Tuesday. It's what our sages call Yom HaMiyuchas. I don't know a really good way to translate that, like the day that made us distinguished. The day that made us distinguished. Yom HaMiyuchas sort of has a better ring in the Hebrew, but it's the day that made us distinguished. What happened that made us distinguished? Well, what happened is on that day, Hashem said about the Jewish people, and you will be for me, Mamleches Kohanim, a kingdom of priests, the Goy Kadosh, and a holy nation. So on that day, tonight, tomorrow, the energy of now is Malchus. You're a Mamlacha of Kohanim. You have Malchus, you have priesthood. You're a Goy Kadosh. You're not regular. I'm making you holy. And what I wanted to focus on more is, what does this mean practically? What does this mean, this Malchus, this Kohanim, this Kadosh? What does that mean in our world? There's a lot of details, there's a lot of ideas. Just very simple, great concept is, we all, in a sense, became priests on that day. Meaning we think, well, I'm not a priest, that's a different tribe, not my tribe, not my husband, not my father. No, God says, you are all priests. You are all Kohanim. What does a priest mean? It means someone that serves me on a very, very exalted level. Someone that's allowed to go into the temple. Actually, the Rebbe takes a step further based on the Rambam. I'm not going to explain the whole reason behind it because I don't want to focus on that. But based on a piece of Rambam, the Rebbe quotes this piece of Rambam many times, that the Rambam says every Jew that wants could be a priest. The Rebbe says, Mashiach will come. You want to go into the temple? You're the priest. You want to go into the Holy of Holies? You're the high priest. Meaning every one of us has such spiritual energy we cannot envision. And when did we get it? Sunday night, Monday, the second day of Sivan. Now, this is our energy. Anyone that wants can be that close to Hashem. Now, this relates to the whole work of this whole week, which I posted on Friday, that this is the week of Malchut, Malchus, which means nobility. Now, you could say, how do I work on being noble? I can work on being kinder. I can work on having more self-discipline. I can work on compassion. How do you work on nobility? And of course, nobility is not a very American trait. But sorry, we got to put American on the side. We're Jewish way before we're American. Every single one of us, we have to envision ourselves this way, has royal blood in us. We're all royal. And when I look at myself that way, and I think of myself as royal, that's how I can access this power that I have, that every single one of us has, to really behave with dignity, to really know that I matter, that I'm important, that I have an important job to do, that I am supposed to contribute to this world, that I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm noble, I'm royal, I'm a leader in this world. Every one of us, each of us in our own arena. You're a leader here, you're a leader here, you have importance and ability to contribute in this area, you have ability to contribute this area, but every one of us, every Jew, from today, from tonight, from the second day of Sivan, we became noble. We became leaders. We became exalted. And how do we access it? Well, start by looking at yourself that way. Start by believing.
Can you give more practical reason, like examples for us?
Sure. I have a lot that I wrote it down here to discuss on this, but what I would mean even before I go into anything I wrote is you can start by how you talk. You can make that like a very practical expression and just put that little thing in your brain of like, are those the words a royal person would use? Whatever word echoes in your head, dignified, regal, noble. You say, no, I don't like any of those words. That's just because we're too American and we're not comfortable with any of those words. So once we put our discomfort on the side, whichever word works for us, you can ask yourself, is that how a refined, noble person talks? Or we could get worse. We can talk about how do we dress. Is that befitting me, my stature? I remember I had a student once in school that she said to me that she viewed herself as a princess. And she was a little bit of a whatever, so it's like I could see her just acting like she was a very chappy person. But she said no, she meant it really spiritually, that she really felt whenever she told herself she's a princess, she demanded from herself certain behaviors and she did them because she's a princess. But when she forgot she was a princess, or everybody else in the world told her she wasn't a princess, and everyone made fun of her for thinking she was a princess, then she didn't behave on that level, because why bother? She's just common. We're all common Americans. We say, no, we're not common Americans. We're different. We're different. It sometimes helps to make it practical if these words are just not sinking in your brain. If you can think of someone that you see like that, if you could think of someone who strikes you as like special, has that dignity, has that refinement, is noble, and then you could ask yourself, well, let me take one detail of me and sync that with her, because I'm not really trying to sync it with her. I'm not trying to be a copycat of someone I'm not. I'm trying to sync it with me, with what I really am. But sometimes it's hard for me to know what I really am. So I look at someone else, and maybe it helps me. It was interesting. I remember hearing this many, many, many years ago that, I don't know nowadays, this was many years ago, but many years ago, the royal family in England, the women all wore weights. All their skirts were weighted. Why? So if there's a wind, the skirt won't fly up. I don't know if they still follow that nowadays, but then they did. And to me, it was a very practical concept of, we're dignified. Were they modest? I doubt their clothing was modest. I don't know if it covered their knees. I don't know where their collarbones were. That's not the point. The point was they had a vision of, we're dignified. We're a cut above. And if we're a cut above, we don't want our skirt flying in the wind and you seeing our legs. Again, it didn't come from a religious perspective. It didn't come from God's laws. It came from a sense of our stature. That's beneath us. That's common. We're not common. If we want you to see our legs, we'll wear a short skirt. But if we're wearing a longer skirt, we don't want you to see our legs. And we're going to wear those weights. Now, again, my practical concept isn't therefore everyone sew weights in the bottom of your skirt, but it's just trying to make it real. And I find very often in these things, if you take one thing and do it, it affects many other things. Like if you would, so to speak, decide to put those weights in your skirts, and that's all, you're saying one thing, that's easy, I'll go to seamstress, put weights in my skirt. Those weights are going to remind you of a lot of other things. Or if you decided, here's 2 words I'm no longer going to say. Because honestly, forget about noble. Even a half noble would never say those words. 2 words I am expunging from my vocabulary. All you do is taking 2 words. But when you're taking those 2 words, it's on your brain because they're words you say. So it creates a lot of awareness in you, which reflects in many other areas. And each person can look at themselves and see, how would I be a more noble person in how I treat others and how I treat myself? What would nobility mean for me? talking about modesty, we have the idea, of course, there's a famous quote, and many of us have heard it when we were in school, Kol kivud the bas melech penima, right? The honor of the princess, the bas melech, is inward, which is the same idea. We live in a world that gives us a completely different message. We live in a world that doesn't know from Kol kivud the bas melech penima, doesn't want to know from it, doesn't honor that concept at all. But it is, and that actually is my inner understanding as well. Inside of me, the little voice of the real me is saying, Kavuda bas melech penima, is saying, my real self is inward. My real self is refined. My real self is modest. That's how I'm wired. I'm a bas melech. I'm a princess. I do want to walk around with those weights. I don't want my skirt to go flying in the wind. I don't feel comfortable. But we live in a world that says, of course you're comfortable. You got great legs. Show them off. So we live in a world that takes this concept and bashes it to pieces. Dignified, refined, it's not American values at all. We want to be comfortable. We want to be casual. We want a democracy. We don't want no nobility. Don't be noble. We don't want any nobles. But the Torah says, I am noble. So if the Torah defines me as noble, and America defines me as relaxed and casual and common and base, which is me? Well, honestly, at this point, they're both me. I mean, I've been in America over 50 years of my existence. So I've absorbed 50 years of those messages. When I was growing up, you wore a denim skirt every day you could. You want to be relaxed. You want to be comfortable. That's it. There's no other thing you would own outside of school. I think in my days we wore it in school. I don't think we had uniforms. We definitely didn't have uniforms. I definitely think we were allowed to wear them. So we probably wore them every day besides Shabbos. That was our norm. So I have all these messages of common bombarding me, but inside there's a piece that says, you're not common. You're a bas melech. You're royal. You're royal blood. And you know what? When there's that friction between what the world is telling me and what Torah is telling me, it doesn't work. Because however much I want to be common, there's something inside of me that's not. But however much I'd want to be noble, there's the whole message of the world that telling me, what? What would you want that for? Why would you want that? That's not our aspiration. We're not looking for that. And I think we really have to get in ourselves this inner understanding that the more I'm aligned with my inner self, the healthier I am. The better I feel when my inside and my outside is in sync. So even if these words sound really like, that's not me, I have no desire to be that way. But Torah says it is you. When Torah says all the glory, the honor of the king's daughter is inward, we're not supposed to say, oh, don't quote that. That was a verse they always threw at me in school. I never liked it. Torah's not trying to make something you don't like. Torah's saying, you're that bas melech. Welcome. Let me introduce you to yourself. You're a bas melech. This is what a bas melech is. So it's a hard alignment because we live in America. Other places have different challenges, but definitely I am American. This definitely is not how I absorb the messages of how I look at myself. But this is what Torah is telling me. And therefore I want to try to align with that because I know that's really me. So I think additionally something we could do is try to analyze our outward environment. I'm saying in general, we live in America. America is not into us being noble. America doesn't want to respect us as noble. But that's my inner self. So if I don't respect and give oxygen to my inner self, I'm going to be out of sync. So I need to find a way to express it. So one practical thing, she asked for practical. So I spoke about adding, taking away, words you're not going to say, or clothing you're not going to wear, or words you are going to say, clothing you are going to wear, ways you are going to treat people, ways you're not going to treat people. But there's also looking at your world, looking at all the toxins in your environment, and really asking yourself, which are the ones that are most detrimental to me in this aspect? Which are the ones that most harm me and take away my vision of self as someone royal, as someone regal, as someone dignified? Which are the ones that make me not want to be any of those things? And try to remove them. Because again, you could say, why should I bother? I got so many things to work on. What are you putting this on me for? But
Like,
the
can you give
idea,
an example?
can I give you an example? Sure. I mean, I don't know what's in your environment, but
I mean, you can't like remove your kid if they make you go, you know, if they make you say a
yeah,
word.
no, I wasn't, I don't, no. Anyone that removes their kids and blames it on me, I walk away from that. I will not take that. I meant more like, if you're, I don't know what's in your environment. Let's say in your environment, there's a lot of magazines. You don't have to bother reading them because obviously you have no time, but they're there. And just the images on them are like the antithesis of all those words I was saying. And well, I don't read them. I don't think about them. I remember a mother many years ago, a mother once saying to me about girls, students, she was saying that whenever these magazines come in, I don't think she meant magazines, she meant like, you know, like catalogs, those type of advertisements. She said whenever they would come in, she would always throw them out before her daughters came home from school. Why? She said because in her head, all of those models, they all looked feline. They all looked like cats, like lions, or, you know, that very like look. And she said she just didn't want her daughters to absorb that as like that's their go-to. It was interesting. She didn't say like they were promiscuous or they were a quarter covered. She didn't look at that. She was just saying the look was so like that aggressive, you know, like lion look. I mean, she called it a cat, but she meant that, like, you know, that look, the eyes, the cheeks, everything. She just said she didn't want her daughters to absorb that. I know it was a pretty refined level to look at that and see cats, but I don't look at them. But I'm saying, I'm giving that as a very simple example of like, if this is in my environment, each time I look at it, I'm sort of like absorbing a certain image, different than maybe my, that I don't know that's exactly what's going to lead me the road of dignity. Or if
Okay, yeah, no more soap operas.
Okay, yeah, soap operas. Soap operas are definitely not assuming we're dignified or noble or regal or God's version of regal, not this world's. Soap operas, movies, music, YouTube, Googling. I mean, come on. We live in a world. We are saturated by the world we live in. But everyone has to be within themselves saying, well, maybe I would say, I have no clue. I don't like to give up all my soap operas, but that one I can also admit is really horrible. So maybe I'll give up that one. I don't know which one it is. Yeah, sorry. But maybe only watch one. But that one, because that one, every single person on there is so warped, is so twisted, is so base. Every single person there is a model for what I don't think God wants me to be. I mean, that one, maybe there's like 2 redeeming people.
It's so hard because it's much deeper than just getting rid of a magazine or not watching something, because our entire culture that we grew up in, like you said, is saturated. It's like deep in our psyche.
Absolutely. It is. And that's why I am positive that at least half the people here are thinking, noble, what is she talking about? Like why would I want to be noble? That's what I meant. Why would I want to be noble? It's not a virtue America has ever held up for us. I want to be aggressive. That's a good, big American virtue. I want to be an entrepreneur. I'm a self-made man. I want to get ahead and push people down. That's America's virtues. Noble is not in the lexicon. So you're right. Of course, it seems very superficial, but there is a concept of Sefer HaChinuch. Sefer HaChinuch says it's a beautiful concept that I'm sure I've quoted many times. It's so practical. Acharei hamaisim nimshachim halavavos, which means after your actions are formed, are conditioned your thoughts. I think it's quite opposite of modern psychology. It's a very deep point, Sefer HaChinuch is saying. Translating that from English to English, what it means is, Sion is saying, and she's 100% correct, we live in a world bombarding us with one message, and we're going to somehow be nobles? We're going to rise above it all because I take away 3 magazines from a house, because I shut 1 hour of TV? But if we understand what Sefer HaChinuch is saying, you are the product of those actions. You are. Which might sound like, that's not positive. But what it's saying is we also have enormous power. Because if I'm the product of those actions and I remove 3 really coarse, I'm not saying inappropriate, I don't think anyone here says inappropriate words, but I remove 3 coarse, common words from my vocabulary, words I would say in front of a rabbi, but I know everyone would tell me I shouldn't. If I would remove 3 such words, is it going to change me? It will. Because that's the maisa where your heart is being affected by. And if I started looking at magazines that come in, I don't know, and I said, well, this type I don't want, it's going to make me discriminate in all my magazines. It's going to make me look, and I might realize this one I also don't want. And this one's not good for me anyway. And I have no time for this anyway. What's it doing in my house? Every once in a while, I don't have magazines in my house. I have no interest, no time, would definitely not go there. But I know every once in a while, more in previous years than recently, I would like look around my house with a sense of, if Mashiach's coming right now, what would I be embarrassed of? What would I not want? What's not appropriate in a Mashiach house? And I would like just walk around the house and take things and put them in the garbage. How do those things get in my house in the first place? I don't know. Things sort of accrue in your house. You don't know exactly how they get there. They must like grow in the corners. But things, especially when children and people give things to children, children come home with things. There's just all this stuff in your house. I would look at it and say, I don't want this in my house. Garbage, 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 garbage. I don't want it in my house. So I'm not saying to do that to your house. I'm just sort of giving an idea of like, when you do those types of things, it does affect your insight. So we're not victims to America, though we are very saturated by America. We're not victims. And we really, really, really can say, I'm going to be different. I am noble. I am a cut above. I'm a Jew.
Is Shavuos a time to do this now because the energy here, like it's
Today,
easier now because
it's now
today?
because this is when God made us noble.
Tonight,
Sunday night,
tonight.
Monday, yes, that's what we're talking about it. Tonight, tomorrow, Sunday night, Monday, God did it. He made us
We
noble
go through our
today.
house and like get rid of a bunch of things that we wouldn't want Mashiach to see. Then it would be easier for us to not. It'd be easier for us to throw it out. And
These
next time it
24
comes
hours.
in.
These 24 hours. These
Okay.
are the 24 hours. That's why we're talking about it now, because this is literally this energy. This is, I mean, you'd think at a class before Shavuos, I should focus more on Shavuos, but this is the energy.
Why is it now? Like, why 2 days before Shavuos?
Just 1 second. Yeah. Why? Because in preparation for Shavuos, Hashem raised us. He said today, I'm saying Monday. It wasn't Monday then, but it's our Monday. Tonight, Sunday night, Monday, the 2nd of Sivan. Tonight is already the 2nd of Sivan. Hashem said, and you will be for me this kingdom of priests, this holy nation. So when Hashem said those words, he created us as his holy, noble, godly people. He changed us by those words. Now, why did he do it now? It was prep for Matan Torah, meaning for us to get the Torah, we have to be people deserving of the Torah. Who are we, these ex-slaves, on the 49th level of impurity 49 some days ago, to be receiving God's inner will and wisdom? So we did a lot of work on our own, of course. We were working, if you remember, but we were all there and we were working hard. But on the 2nd of Sivan, he elevated us. He made us holy. He made us his nation of priests, his holy people, his noble people. So that's why now these 24 hours is the best time to focus on this. Siona?
Are there any, I know the 3 days before Matan Torah, there were all these restrictions and things that the Yidden had to do in order to prepare. Are there any Hasidiyot that like do any of those things nowadays, or?
Wait, English plays. What's Hasidot? What is that?
Hasidic
groups that take those things that they did then in preparation.
Like separating from your husband and things like that, right. Purifying yourself.
Really?
Yeah, not that I know of. This is what the Jews did before the giving of the Torah, to purify themselves, to be on this very, very high level. So I don't know if
we're supposed to or we're not.
No. So I'm saying I was going to get to that once I get past this point. But jumping ahead, and I want to come back because I did feel, oh, it's so late. Okay, I'll try to work faster. But not in the literal sense, no. There's no laws that I know of any group that takes on as a process of refinement. But what is advised is to work on that piece, to really each person like really be focused. God's giving me his word on Friday. He's giving me his Torah. Me personally, this Friday, for time 3,332. And during those 3 days, which will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I do want to be mentally focused and preparing myself, not as the Jews did then necessarily with those laws, but as I look at myself and think, what would I do to prepare for this ultimate fusion of me and God? So definitely that is supposed to be our mindset. I had a lot more I want to speak about this idea. I mean, I do feel constricted by the time. Maybe I'll just say a few things briefly, just to throw out some ideas, because there's a lot. It's true. It's this week. We're not going to discuss this next class. This is it, guys. Get it now. This is when it's relevant. Going back to the idea of being malchus, of being noble. Nobility also means being nullified. Kabbalistically, the energy of malchus, which is the final one of God's 10 emanations, has nothing of its own. Everything it has is what it's absorbed from the higher upper dimensions. And that's like what we mean by, we think, it's funny because, again, I wouldn't even say America. I would say just the general world culture is, oh, the king, he's got the most, he's the richest, he has all the power. That's not how Judaism looks at it at all. Judaism says the king has nothing. Everything he has, he's just been given by the people. If people wouldn't give him, he'd have nothing. His power is just what the people are empowering him with. His wealth is what the people are giving him. He has nothing. If the people didn't give him, he'd have no money. He's not going out and working. He's not creating anything. How does he have anything? Because he's being given it by others. Which shows us, going back to ourselves, when we're trying to realign with this nobility and dignity, we want to get in sync. There's a big piece of nullification. Nobility and nullification also don't jive in our brain. I mean, nobility anyway doesn't jive in our brain. But nobility and nullification for sure don't work. But this is the Jewish version of noble, is there's a lot of nullification. Like, practically speaking, if you're a leader, if you're the king, you're supposed to put every other person there first before yourself. I'm just thinking maybe the example, the captain, he's the last one to leave the sinking ship, right? Because he puts every other person on that boat ahead of him. And it could be the lowest boy in the kitchen, the lowest sailor. He's going to get off the boat before the captain. That's a real captain. It says in Titanic, the captain actually jumped on the last little lifeboat out, and he survived. And it was a huge disgrace. You survived, all these people died, and you jumped on a boat? That's not a captain. The captain goes off last. If you're a leader, if you're the leader of your family, then you're thinking of a lot of other people's needs before you're thinking of your own. Unless thinking of your own is a way of thinking of theirs. But a leader puts the people they're leading before them, because again, nobility, malchus, has nothing of their own. It's all the others. So if I'm really looking at myself in that way, I want to put others in front of me. I really want that humility. The power is think of Moshe, right? The classical example, Moshe Rabbeinu, who only got the Jews out of Egypt, got them through the sea, led them for 40 years, was in heaven 120 days, brought down the Torah. I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Torah of Truth says about him, he was the most humble man that ever lived. The most humble man on the face of the earth. And the question is, he didn't know. He somehow didn't realize what he was doing. And the answer given is, he knew everything, of course. But he knew it all came from God. He knew none of his talents and gifts and abilities were his own. Everything God gave him. And he thought, if anyone else had my gifts, they'd do a lot better job probably. So he managed to do everything, to lead, and to literally feel nothing was from him. So being in this space of nobility, being in this space of leadership, and as leaders, and every one of us are leaders. If we're leaders in our work, if we're leaders in our homes, leaders in our circles, we're all leaders. A leader puts the other people in front of themselves. A leader doesn't mean I have a lot of power and I grab the power. That's the American version. A Torah leader is so humble that everyone else's needs comes first. That's a leader. I also speak about the idea of being holy, Goy Kadosh. Today, Monday, the 2nd of Sivan, God said, you're my holy people. How do we become holy? Again, America doesn't seem to think we're holy either, but God says we're holy. And he gave us a way, a very practical way. The practical way of being holy is doing mitzvahs. Every time we do another act, we think, we say, we do as God wants, that changes us. It changes our coarseness. Where we start out pretty coarse, wild animals, so physical. And mitzvah by mitzvah by mitzvah, we become sensitized to God. That's what happens. If you can envision, this is a metaphor, it's not mine. This is from the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, that there's the flame of God coming down on your body every time you do a mitzvah. But the flame, how does it hit the body? There has to be a wick holding it. The wick that's holding it is your animal nature, what we call your animal soul. There's a flame of God. Every time you do a godly act, every time you do a mitzvah, that's being held onto you by the wick of the animal energy. Now that wick, as it's attaching the flame to the Jew, to the body, the flame is bit by bit charring the wick. Charring, burning it out, burning it out, burning it out. Which means that every time you bring God's energy onto you, your impurities get burnt away. And they get burnt away, and they get burnt away. So you are becoming that holy person. I didn't mean to be holy. I wasn't even asking to be holy. Okay, but this is God's system. Every time you do a mitzvah, Goy Kadosh. You're becoming my holy people. You're becoming my holy people.
If you do an Avera, does the wick get big again?
It's a separate concept. It doesn't work exactly that way. The Avera does something. The Avera like puts garbage around so you can't access that it desensitizes you, but doesn't take back what you got charred away. No. What you accomplished isn't going to go out the garbage with the Avera, but the Avera will add like a layer of filth, so you have this beautiful furniture, but there's all this junk on top of it, all this clutter or all this dust or all this grime, so you can't see the beauty of the furniture anymore. So you have to get away the filth, but it didn't change the furniture. You didn't get IKEA's model instead. Your furniture is still there. It's still beautiful, but you have to take away what's covering it over. But this is an amazing thing. As we mature, as we go through life, as we realize our vulnerability, as we realize our dependency on Hashem, we serve him more. But it's not only that. As we're serving, our coarseness is being charred away by the flames of the mitzvah. So what's happening is, even though you didn't mean it to happen, it wasn't your concept, you weren't looking for this to happen, but you become a different person. Like by accident. Wasn't in your good intention, you weren't planning on being a different person, but mitzvah by mitzvah by mitzvah, you become a different person. And I think this is most obvious to anyone who's in an active relationship with Hashem. Meaning, we could be in a passive, I'll call it cultural Judaism. I mean, we're Orthodox, we're from, so we can have passive cultural orthodoxy. But if we put that on the side, and we say, no, we're in this for real. We want a real relationship with Hashem. If you look back, nobody has to confirm I'm right, but if you look back a year ago was right before Shavuot. If you look back 5 years ago, you can mark it by your kids. If you have any kids, just think of them 5 years younger to remember what you were like. I can guarantee you were a different person. If you say you weren't, I'm still going to say I'm right. You were a different person. If you've spent the last 5 years really working on this relationship with Hashem, you're a different person. Because the mitzvahs change you. You don't mean to be changed. You just mean to do what you're supposed to do. But if you're doing it for real because you really want a relationship with Hashem, Hashem says, Goy Kadosh. You're going to be holy. Because my mitzvah is the fire of God burning away your impurities. If you don't even care about it, I don't care. You are changing. your impurities are getting burnt away by God's fire. And therefore, day by day, and sometimes you need a year perspective, and sometimes you need a 5-year perspective. But I think if you look back, you should be able to see it.
When a person dies, that means their wick was totally charred away?
No, nothing to do with that. No. This charring away process is positive. There's no negativity in it, meaning if a person's wick is completely consumed, it would mean that they became a very, very, very holy person, that their whole energy is coming from their godly soul. They don't even need the interface of the animal.
Right,
So
you'd be ascetic.
Every bit,
right?
yeah, in essence, every bit that's charred away is a positive experience. It's another bit of my coarseness that I'm past, not my issue anymore. I mean, I don't know if anyone can look at themselves and think of things that used to really be a struggle, and it's just not their issue anymore. It's like, that's not them. I don't know, whatever, just changed. That's not their problem. They got other problems, but that's not their problem. Because that coarseness got consumed by the fire. You became part of your Goy Kadosh. You don't have that coarseness, so it's gone. Okay, whatever. There's more and more and more to say, but I'm looking at the time, so I'm not going to say anything more I want to say on this topic, but I really have prepared a lot more. It's always
Just
me.
say it really fast.
Okay.
Say it really fast.
So I'll just say really, really fast one other point, because at least I'm going to throw in one more point that I think is really important, and we're just going to go fast forward. When we became Hashem's people, we became so powerful. We are different than the rest of the world, which means every single action of ours is significant. You're the royal one. You're the leaders of the world. Every good thing affects the whole world. Every other thing also affects the whole world, because God made us the leaders of the world. Even the non-Jews speak about this idea of, like, the light to the nations. And so that is a very literal effect. It literally means we might not realize it. Our husbands and children might not realize it. The world might not realize it, but we are huge. We have a huge power. And I think the first step to accessing our power is acknowledging it. And when did we get that power? Now, today, when we became God's kingdom of priests. We became the powerhouse of the world. And if you look at yourself and acknowledge your power, you'll do it. Imagine, they say about Napoleon that he would wake up very, very, very early in the morning. And someone asked him, you're Napoleon, you can do whatever you want. Why don't you sleep in? And he said, what? Lose 1 minute of the pleasure of being Napoleon? Like, I'm that powerful, I'm just going to waste it in bed? I don't think that's our problem. I don't think we're oversleeping. But it's a concept of, like, we really have that power. Okay, so as Sion already said, what we were discussing, first we discussed day 1, Sunday, the 3 techniques on love. Then we've been discussing for the last 39 minutes, day 2, tonight and tomorrow, which we want to really actualize tonight and tomorrow. Holiness, sanctity, refinement, chipping away the world and getting that out of my house, because what I do changes my inside, and I want my inside to be aligned with who I really am. Now we're going to fast forward day 3, 4, and 5. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this year. Obviously it was different originally, but this year it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as Siona spoke about, are the 3 days that the Jews officially, formally got ready to absorb the Torah. And Siona asked, do we have certain laws or customs of holding self back from the physical to be ready? We don't have any official ones, but what we are officially supposed to do is have in our headspace. God's giving me his Torah. God's giving me himself. If you could think of it, sometimes you think God's giving me the Torah, I already know it. Or God's giving me the Torah, he's giving me a lot of rules. God's giving me the Torah. God's giving me himself. That's what it means. He's giving me himself. And I want to be there ready to get everything he's giving. So I want to spend these 3 days trying to be fit to get his will, to get his wisdom, to get his word. And then we come to Shavuos. We come to the getting of the Torah. Loads to talk about, no time. So I'm just going to say this really in brief. Okay, by the Torah reading, obviously this year is a great challenge with the social distancing and rules. And I don't know if any of your shuls are open and if any of them are going to have women and children. But if you're in a situation where you have a shul that you can go to and you can bring your children to, it is so important for you to be there by that Torah reading on Friday, because that's when God is giving us his Torah. So we should be there to receive it. But if in this situation your shul still isn't open, some shuls are, some shuls aren't. I mean, last week the CRC came out with a letter, so there's lots of rules, and everyone's shul is different. I don't know. I have no clue. But if you can go to a shul and hear the 10 commandments on Friday with your children, you want to do it. If you can, if it's possible, because he's giving himself to us for time 3,332 and deeper than ever before. He's not just rehashing. He's giving a piece of himself that he never, ever gave before. On Shavuos, now we're talking about for the 48 hours, Friday and Shabbos, there is no Yetzer Hara, no evil inclination that blocks us from studying Torah. Just like on Yom Kippur, there's no evil inclination at all. You say, oh, I sin on Yom Kippur. I'm jealous. I gossip. All right, it's just habit. Your evil inclination's on vacation. So over these 48 hours, you can say, I'm not going to open up a book. I don't learn. I have no headspace. I'm too busy serving and cleaning and serving and cleaning for 4 times in a row. That's you. Your Yetzer Hara is gone. Nothing is stopping you from learning Torah on Shavuos. Because Shavuos, the energy of Torah is so intense. That is what you're supposed to be doing then. Whatever you can, you're supposed to be grabbing Torah and fixing it. Like just like we're saying, now is the best day to look at the toxins in your environment that make you feel crass and toss them out. Shavuos is the best day to say, I learn Torah. God, you gave me your will and wisdom. I'm so excited. I'm going to
Women also?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there something
So
that we should be learning?
Okay.
Like something?
Anything that inspires you, anything that makes you feel connected, makes note. If you want to learn a medrash, you want to learn halacha, you want to learn a gadita, you want to open up a Talmud, you want to learn a chumash, it's all Torah. You
So
want to learn Torah.
So kids don't come first at Yom Tov. If you say like you're supposed to daven, but if your kids need you, then it's okay.
I would hope in 48 hours there'll be some moments that you're not only taking care of your children. I hope you're not as enslaved as that. There must be some time.
Okay.
You know, I'm not exempting you from those 4 meals. But just like on Rosh Hashanah, okay? On Rosh Hashanah, when you're not davening in shul and you're not serving the meals, you know what you're supposed to be doing on Rosh Hashanah? Do any of you remember or know? You put this in your memory banks. It's in a few months away. You're supposed to be saying Tehillim, okay? That's what you do on Rosh Hashanah. You go to shul, you daven, you have meals, and every other moment you can possibly say Tehillim. It determines your whole year. So the same way on Rosh Hashanah, I try to say Tehillim as much as I can. On Shavuos, I try to learn Torah. Am I going to learn Torah for 5 hours straight? No, I'm not going to learn Torah for 5 hours straight. No, I'm not. But am I going to push myself to learn more? I absolutely am. Why? Imagine if you gave someone not just a gift. The gift is your very self. And they didn't open it. They said, oh, thank you so much. And they put it on the corner. And 3 weeks later, you still see it sitting there gathering dust. And it wasn't something I ordered online on Amazon. I invested myself in it. It was handmade whatever. My own sewing, my own knitting, my own baking, my own writing, my own photography. I invested myself. I took the time and energy to give you myself, and it's collecting dust somewhere in your counter, and you said thank you very nicely. Hashem is literally giving us himself. And the way we say we're so excited, as I tell my children, we say we're so excited because I have this big luchik party when we come home because we're so excited we got such a great present. But the real way we say we're so excited is by learning. And this is, again, just like now is the best time to get rid of the toxins that make you feel coarse, Shavuos is the best time to create a relationship to Hashem through learning his Torah. It's the best, best, best time. A student of mine once said that she viewed Torah as Hashem's diary. I thought it was such a beautiful metaphor. It's not mine. Her name was Mushka Khanan, a student many years ago. But it really struck me so beautifully, like Hashem's given me his diary. You know, when my daughter was on a trip, when she was in seminary, I probably still now, in those days was just starting, that Russia opened up, and they would take the seminary girls in Israel on trips to like all the holy spots in Russia. And she went, and when she came home, I guess Pesach time, she brought us all presents. She brought my husband this water from the Baal Shem Tov. I don't know, whatever. She's into presents. She likes giving gifts. What did she give me? She gave me her diary from the trip. She wrote down every day from her experiences, and she gave that to me as her gift to me. It was her diary. It was the most beautiful gift she could have ever given me, because she was really giving me a piece of herself. She was giving me her experience. So if we could just envision that this is Hashem's diary. This is Hashem's inner self. And so I think Rena said, so which part of Torah should you learn? Whatever Torah makes you feel connected to Hashem. Whatever. There's no rules on it. Whatever touches your heart and makes you feel that you're close to Hashem, that's how Hashem wants you to feel. And that's what Hashem wants you to learn every day. Hashem wants you to learn things that touches you and makes you feel that he really loves you, because he's giving you himself. And there's nothing that feeds me besides Torah. Nothing. When, we can do lots of mitzvahs, and we do, and we're from, and we have children, and we have husbands, we're doing mitzvahs all day long. But none of that feeds my soul. The only food my neshama gets is when I learn Torah. It's the only food. So when I feel like weak, I'm doing everything, but I feel so burnt out, I feel so uninspired, I feel so unconnected, it means I'm not eating. I'm not feeding myself. I'm not learning Torah. That's what Shavuos is really about. If I learn with the intention of, this is to connect me to God, and I really understand what I'm learning. You have to understand it, and it has to be with the intention to connect to God, then that Torah literally is digested by your soul and is feeding your soul. And if you don't learn Torah, or if you don't understand a word of what you're learning, or if you're learning it for some other reason, I don't know why you'd be learning it anyway. Any of us are learning it for Hashem, so we don't have to worry about that. My soul doesn't get fed. And that's why I feel weak and uninspired and unconnected and not caring, because my soul's not getting any food. And Shavuos is a time to reawaken that relationship and just one more time recommit and reconnect and open that gift. I think just because, as Shira mentioned, we do have other obligations. We all do. It's good before Yom Tov, and this will be my final thing. I know it's late, but it's good before Yom Tov to sort of plan out for yourself when you're going to learn, and ideally what you're going to learn. Because otherwise, it comes, and it's hot, and you're exhausted, and you're running after these kids. Everything feels so dirty. And then it's over, and you're like, oh my gosh, I know I'm supposed to be doing something. So take a few minutes, what you're going to learn and when you're going to learn it. It's something important.
I have a question. Quick question. Anything that we do learn and obtain on Yom Tov, since there is no Yetzer Hara, it's something that we'll be able to continue with throughout the year without the Yetzer Hara?
Not without the Yetzer Hara, but with the cement in the relationship already there. Meaning you're trying to solidify. I guess I didn't say the point clearly because I'm so rushing, so I'm not really saying anything. I really appreciate the question. So this will be my final point. What you're trying to do on Shavuos is solidify your relationship to Hashem through Torah. Just like when we try to leave Egypt, it's not just to leave Egypt on Pesach, it's to leave Egypt for the whole year. And we try to take in joy on Sukkot, it's not just to be happy for 9 days, it's to have more joy our whole year. So when in these 48 hours, I think about it in advance, I figure out what my time slots are, maybe I'm going to forego my nap, which is very precious to me, if you get a nap in. I don't know if you do. I generally don't, actually, but for people that do, forgo the nap or go to bed later, whatever it is, whatever the sacrifice is, it's honestly getting up earlier, forgoing the nap, or going to sleep later. Probably those are the only windows of time you're going to have. So in those windows, you're going to decide when, and you're going to decide what, and you're going to really learn, which means you're going to understand, and you're going to really know this is about your relationship with Hashem. This is cementing the relationship. So it's not that your Yitzhar is gone for the rest of the year. That would be a nice thing. No. But rather, you established it. Once you establish something, it's much, much easier for maintenance. So why do I have to establish on Shavuos? Why can't I establish it today? I'm so inspired. I won't remember this by Friday. Because the auspicious time to establish it is Shavuos. That's when Hashem's open to it. Okay, I have to go now. And thank you all for joining. And we should have Receiving the Torah with inwardness, and with joy.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was great.